So it was at that point I realized, boy, I have got to learn to diversify for the sanity, for my own sanity, but for the security of the businesses that I'm managing. They have to have diversified marketing channels. Hey, how's it going, man? This is a full room, so this is exciting. This is a great bunch of people. I heard y'all chatting before that, so this is cool to be a part of. Jake, appreciate the invite. So yeah, I worked at a marketing company for 14 years, and one of the things that can happen, that stops people from starting businesses. So I'll just start here. Is we think like if we get employment with somebody, like there's job security there. And I guess I had fallen into that rut. Like I thought, okay, I'm at a marketing company. I've been here for 14 years. We worked with Fortune 100 companies. We got to see the logistical rollout of massive marketing campaigns for companies like Ocean Spray, different vineyards. Pepsi was a client. And I mean, like when they would do like the Super Bowl, the Super Bowl countdown that we had with Dr. Dre, Eminem, and everybody else, we would be in charge of the logistical rollout of the promotional merchandise to that Super Bowl and all the other promotional material to go around the nation. It was super interesting. One thing I learned was how much big brands waste marketing money. So they would spend millions and millions of dollars on marketing campaigns, and they could care less if any of it was tracked back to a sale. But going back to job security, I worked there for 14 years and I thought, boy, this is, I'm pretty much set here. It's not necessarily what I love, but there's security here. And there was a fire. I got a call from the owner on a Saturday, and he said basically that the whole place had burned down. And the following months, we laid off probably 85% of the staff. I happened to remain. But we never really jump started. Things never started to roll back the way they were. We got a new building, insurance paid for everything. We got new merchandise. We got, we started hiring new staff, but it was a fraction of what it was. And I think at that moment I realized the security that you think you have when you work for somebody that might be stopping you from making big leaps isn't really there. It's kind of a mirage, because even if it didn't burn down, I didn't know how the owner was spending the money. I didn't know if he had a gambling problem or if he was, if his tax guy was stacking money on the side or whatever. So it made me realize that, boy, if I'm going to make some jumps into the world that I want to, I better do it now. And so it was shortly after that, I decided to start a SaaS company. Not really a SaaS company, but to be a SaaS consultant. I found the friend that I knew the most about development, smart guy. And I said, let's just start a development company, start consulting for people. We started making some phone calls, started calling everybody I knew, asking them, do they have any development needs? And, shortly I realized I'm not a developer. I'm trying to sell something that I don't know. And so I just started realizing my passion isn't here. First guy that we got a bite on said, yeah, I think I want some development. And shortly after that, he decided to hire me. He said, well, actually, I'm not sure I need development. I need some web design and some marketing stuff. So I thought, okay, I know marketing stuff. And I was doing some web design stuff on the side. So so that evolved into doing some web design stuff, and both for him before I took the job and some other clients. And you'd build out this new website, and a few weeks later they'd say, boy, the site looks great, but it didn't do what we wanted it to do, which was to make more sales. And so I quickly realized I'm offering something to solve a problem that I wasn't quite clear on. And so I'm out there, I'm building these websites, and, I didn't have a ton of clients, but I had enough before I was going to take this job. I just wanted to see maybe this is an avenue to go down. And I realized, boy, I have to be really clear with what solution I'm providing. If I'm going to be selling web design, the bigger opportunity for me was that they didn't actually need web design. They needed traffic to those websites. So they were hoping to get, a new website to solve that problem. And had I been a little bit more strategic and prescriptive in the questions I was asking, I would have realized that. So, so the web design thing kind of took off. It was a little slow, but I did decide to go with this first client and being a full-time SEO guy and doing some web design stuff on the side. His company grew by 40% in the first year. And I mean, he was already doing close to $1 million a year. So it was a significant jump. But I quickly learned I wasn't happy there. Just the relationship didn't work out right. We just didn't seem to be clicking together as two different people. So I decided to cut ties and go off and do the marketing thing, specifically double down on SEO. Keep in mind, I had one client at this point. So I was going different directions with him. He didn't want to continue a contract with me. So I picked up a client for $1,700 a month. Get this, I had 8 kids, $1,700 a month. My profit was like $500 a month. So this was, now I don't advise this. I don't necessarily advise 8 kids, but I definitely don't advise jumping off and just starting without a parachute, although it may work for some of you. I did it and I had no choice. I mean, I literally had no choice. It was the most stressful period of my life. Well, one of them. But quickly I had to start adding value. And so I had to jump in. There was literally no option. It was like, I mean, we don't have family, to go to. I don't have relatives that I can get money from. They're friends. My credit sucked. So I literally had nothing. So just jumped in. I mean, I had that much disdain for the relationship that I realized I'd rather just go do my own thing and have full control over, what I want to do. And so I did that. So that's a key to make sure you have the right relationships when you get into relationships, even if they're, employee-employer relationships. Just make sure that you're working hard to understand what it is you want and have the right kind of guts to be able to say if, something isn't working out the way you want it to be working out. Jumped in and quickly just started to grow. Landed a couple big clients. How did I land those clients? Networking. Those were all network clients, and still to this day, like, networking is a big deal. I mean, emails, cold calls, all that stuff still works. I mean, it has its own value. But for me, the biggest bang for my buck has been networks, just connecting with people. And looking for strategic relationships, just kind of listening to people and seeing, like, is there any type of relationship here that intertwines with what I'm doing or with one of my clients? And that quickly allowed me to kind of double up. So I went from like $1,700 a month to like 10 grand a month in like 3 months. And then from there, it just kind of snowballed. But I was only doing SEO, and that was working. I didn't have like this big thing where like Google smacked any of my clients. What had happened for me to kind of venture into, to go one step further into what I'm doing today, was I was sitting with one of my clients who I'd had for a number of years. And they started talking about how they were getting ready to send their son to a private in preparation for college. And I realized before our relationship, they were all direct mail. So they did all direct mail. And when I started working with them, they doubled down on SEO. And SEO quickly overtook their direct mail stats, and it actually became 65% of their income. So 65% of their income was coming through my efforts. And we were sitting down at lunch. They invited me out to lunch. We were celebrating, but he's telling me how he's getting ready to send his son to private school. And I'm just like feeling smaller and smaller as the conversation's going. And all of a sudden I felt the pressure. I felt the pressure of, man, this kid, he has a name, his name's Christian, is about to go to private school. And whether these guys know it or not, 65% of their income is coming through my efforts. If anything fails in this relationship, not only am I screwed, but they're screwed. And this kid, Christian, is screwed, you know? All of a sudden I just felt the pressure. I went home, I couldn't sleep at night. And the thing that sucks about SEO, I don't know if anybody does SEO, is like, you don't own Google, right? So you don't know what could happen, even though we're doing everything legit. It's a traffic source that I don't own. It's a traffic source that ultimately the algorithm can change. They don't need to ask my opinion. No matter how legit we might be following the rules, it could all change overnight. So it was at that point I realized, boy, I have got to learn to diversify for the sanity, for my own sanity, but for the security of the businesses that I'm managing. They have to have diversified marketing channels. So it was at that point I just dove headfirst into marketing, even deeper than I ever had before. And I just dove even further into direct response marketing, specifically people like Jay Abraham and Dan Kennedy, and just started digesting everything that I could. Began to diversify their marketing channels, which allowed me to solve bigger problems and make bigger revenue. So, once you start to learn things like direct response marketing, you can tie the returns to your income, right? So you can diversify these channels and you can start to say, like, I have a projected return on investment for this marketing investment that's going to be XYZ. You can either pay me that up front, or for a bigger chunk, I'll take a portion of the revenue that's produced. And that has streamlined relationships. It's allowed me to be equity partners in different companies, as I've seen like different channels kind of explode, and know that, boy, if I can manage 20 more different marketing channels, but it's going to cost you a lot, I'd rather just be an equity partner and get a portion of the sales and a portion of the company, increase the valuation of the company, allow it to be sold and sold at a bigger multiple. And so that is what kind of brought me to where I'm at now. So now I'm a full-time marketing consultant and equity partner in several different businesses. And it just continues to grow, continues to, the beauty of it is you can find different channels of both marketing and different relationships, different relationships of companies, different ways to connect to different people. And so it gets really exciting. Going to the method market match component. I don't know if anybody has read Dan Kennedy's books, but he talks about having the right method, or the right message, the right audience, and the right marketing channel. So 3 components that equal a really good campaign. And once I understood that core concept, I took that concept to everything that I could. And so any company that I work with, one of the first things I ask them is, do they have a specific marketing channel that they're looking for, or a specific targeted audience? Once you identify, and I was watching some of the previous episodes, and I can't believe how many people hit on this very same concept. But it's so critical. And it's the thing that I love the most. So I'm going to roll up my sleeves because seriously, I love this part. When you have the right target audience, when you know who it is that you want to market to, and then you understand the right offer, the right message that you want to send to them, your creativity can be unleashed at figuring out, how do I bridge the gap between that audience and getting them to see the message that I have for them. And I literally mean, like, your creativity can be unleashed. And this is where, like, the artistic side of marketing can unfold. So, like, examples would be, like, if we're trying to target a specific audience for a financial advisor, let's say, and they want, we look at their top 30 performing portfolios or clients, and they all work at the same company. We can find out more information about that company. We can look for, I'll go to like Google Earth. I'll examine around the building, see maybe there's a billboard right in front of that building that they all work at, that's their target client, that we can buy that billboard for $5,000 a month, sending them to that lead offer, whatever that might be, and quadruple the amount of people that are currently their clients. I'll give you an example I'm doing right now. We're trying to I have a client that's trying to target some financial advisory material at a local university. I won't say the name of the university just in case there's anybody there that is on this call. But one of the struggles we have is we're trying to figure out, how do we get in front of the professors and the faculty at this university, because they're pretty much on lockdown. We've went to list brokers. They can't have access to, we don't have access to like the home addresses of all the professors. Well, we were able to find on, one strategy is we were able to find on the actual website all their room numbers, and all their room numbers have mail. So we're able to go that route. But I actually took that client. I said, let's go to the university and walk the streets and just look for who already has access to our clients. Maybe there's a delivery vehicle. Maybe there's somebody there that we'll see. Maybe they have a banquet at a local golf place that we can get some marketing collateral for. And we just walked the streets, listed a bunch of ideas. The third strategy was I emailed the marketing departments and said, hey, are you guys looking for any guest speakers? I'd love to come in and talk about direct response marketing. Now, the goal for me to go and talk about direct response marketing is to pose the question to the students. If someone was to try to market to this university's faculty and staff, what is the best way to do that? As a creative kind of question to the people that are there. And they'll come up with very creative ideas. And those creative ideas will be able to be implemented, but we're going straight to the source in a roundabout way. We're actually using the marketing department to figure out how do we market to your people. So you can get really creative in terms of some of those things. So it's truly where things can get unleashed when it comes to trying to find your target audience. Once you've identified them, I cannot tell you the amount of different stories that we've been able to utilize to get the right message to that right audience. And the smaller the audience, the more specific you can be in terms of delivering that message. But it gets really, really exciting. I mean, I have examples, endless examples. I mean, there are different ways that you want to show up. You can create different, target audience. I'm working with a realtor where I get a percentage of the revenue of commission, and we have one funnel that's been working, and we duplicate it over and over again. This funnel is, we target a specific lake with high-end homes. We create a website for that lake. We offer postcards to that list saying, hey, we know you get postcards basically on the valuation of your home, but wouldn't you like to know what homes have sold over the past 3 years on your lake? Wouldn't that information be, helpful to you just to see what's going around in your neighborhood? Oh, so if it is, just go to freelake.com, or locallakename.com. And we will physically send you a copy of a report that we put together of every home that's sold over the past 3 years. And so all we're trying to do there is we're just trying to get in front of the invisible audience before they're ready to sell, right? So every realtor goes for the brand exposure route where they're trying to put their face up and they're trying to get in front of the right people at the moment that they're ready to sell. But if you think about your local neighborhood, maybe 5% of the people are ready to sell today. But if you think about who might be ready to sell in my local neighborhood over the next 12 months, that's a much bigger number. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. We've all heard that. So our goal is to get in front of them before they make that buying decision and before we have to compete with everybody else. So if we can capture them before that moment, we have just a higher degree of probability of having them sellers and buyers. So, there's other things. The next thing is, we want a buyer's list. So we'll go to a website. Let me see if I can find it just to give you guys kind of Tower Data, and they have an email validation option. Really cool. So one of the things that we do is under their services is they have like this email intelligence and identity matching. So we'll do an email append. And basically what we do is we download a list of all the emails of all the buyers, all the people that have subscribed to our email list for like that report. We upload it for email validation and appendage. And what that does is it kicks out some commonalities. So the email intelligence allows us to identify some similar magazines as one data point that they all subscribe to. Not all of them, but the biggest majority. So let's say we find a magazine that 65% of the lake owners all subscribe to. So then what we'll do is we'll go to that email subscription service and we'll actually ask them if we can do a sponsored post that says, hey, are you interested in buying a home on this lake? Because we've already identified a lot of people that either are on that lake or want to move on that lake, subscribe to that magazine. And then we'll just do a sponsored post that says, are you looking for homes on this lake? Jump on our list. So that's the other side, the buyer side. And we just build that list up. So every time he gets a listing, we email that list and away we go. And it all comes back down to finding the right target audience. You know, the smaller it is, the more strategic I can be. You know, the more creative I can be in going, okay, that's the audience. Like going back to the university audience, I can physically look at a building and say, my audience is in that building. Like there's got to be a way for me to penetrate that thing. They're all there. They're all under that roof. Like, how do I get in there? And I literally walk around and try to figure out, how am I going to get this message to them? I know the message speaks directly to them. It says, this university faculty, you want this thing, you know? And so I know I have the right message. I know I have the target audience. Now I just got to figure out how the heck can I be creative enough to deliver that thing? And those are where the ideas just get unleashed. Here's the other thing. The competitors won't even know that that exists, right? Like we found like, like certain retirement groups that have retired from those target audiences. And we can sponsor those groups with newsletters, like whatever their retirement newsletter is. We can buy we'll sponsor the whole newsletter for your whole crew, and we'll send it out every month. And then there's big advertisement on the front. And the competition has no idea that we bought advertisement spot across the street with a billboard. They just have no idea that that's how we're piling in traffic. And the other part of this is an asset that like we turn on. And I have marketing channels that are open that have been going for years, billboards that have been up and they're returning every month for years. And nobody even knows they're there because they don't even look. And they could outbid us tomorrow. I mean, we're paying like years ago rates still. Like they can come in and say, we'll buy that billboard or we'll buy that advertisement spot for 10X because they know the valuation of it, but they don't because they're not looking. They have no idea. They're just going to like the obvious models that everybody else is doing. And we can just run these channels and nobody even knows how we're getting it, where we're getting it, or even that we're getting it at all. So, yeah. So there's on the marketing world, as things progress, every time that there's a new medium of delivery, let's say it's social media, video, whatever it might be, everybody else assumes that the old ways are dead. When the TV came out, everybody said the radio was dead. And then when social media came out, everybody said, these other channels are dead. And this will just go on forever. The beauty is when everybody leaves the old channel, it's a lot cheaper to buy advertisement in those old channels. And it's less competition, so you can begin to utilize those channels that still work if you know what you're doing for far less money than ever before with far less competition. So yeah, business growth comes down to, for me and for our clients, is first the target market and just trying to understand like who do I like working with, like what kind of client do I like working with, like really identifying what the personality traits are of the client that I like working with, or who's the most profitable. And then just doubling my attention down on that one, creating the channels, creating the creative approaches, and selecting that one single target market at a time. Everybody gets discouraged because they're like, my service is for more people. It just isn't applied to one person. I have this problem with every client. I sell wedding dresses. That goes for every woman who's going to get married. Well, sure, but and keep selling to everyone that comes in for a wedding dress. But is there a specific target audience that we can begin to look at? Well, in the case I'm giving you an example of, 65% of their their clients were from a local university. So, all right, are you sending anything to that local university? And the answer was no. And so we did, and sales obviously go up. And because you get the beauty of selecting a single target market at a time, I always use the illustration that, like, if you were to work at a zoo, let's say, and you were to deliver like food to zoo animals, and you could speak the language of every animal at the zoo, and you were to just carry this bag of food and you say, hey, I got food for everyone. And you have like zebras and gorillas and penguins. They're not all going to just rush for the same food. But if you were to know, like, there's Clydesdale horses in this zoo, and like they like this specific Midwestern sweet corn, and you were to walk over to that Clydesdale horse with that sweet corn, you're going to get 100% conversions because they all love it. You've identified your target market, you've brought the thing that they love, and you're going to convert them all. Typically, our marketing collateral or material is just too generic. It's just like, hey, I've got this thing, and it goes to everyone and it sells to everyone, and we don't speak to anyone. And if you just pick a single target market at a time, it doesn't mean you can't sell to other people while you're doing this. Just pick one, and all the other people don't even need to see it. It could be like a separate landing page and a postcard that only goes to that target audience, but you can speak very direct to them. And the more direct you're speaking to a single target market, the higher your conversion rate goes, and the more creative your delivery mechanism is, because you can think about, how do I bypass all the other channels and get right to them, speak, right to their heart. And all of those things. I mean, it really is a simplified approach to how to unleash your creative marketing approach and approaches. And the more I can get my clients to get on board with this, and because they're more familiar with their product or their service. So the more I get them thinking, and sometimes I've seen this it could take a year before all of a sudden it clicks. And I can see it when it clicks, because they start finishing my sentences, or they're thinking 5 steps ahead. But they typically have a way to think about point I realized, how do I approach them in a way that I diversify for the sanity, or my own sanity, but for so as you begin to kind of security of the businesses that I'm managing, they have to have diversified marketing channels. Whoever that target market is, you can really begin to think of, how can I creatively take this message to them, and it starts with targeting them. Starts with targeting one single target market at a time.
So for the email validation and appendage option, where you're talking about that identifies similar subscriptions and email intelligence and identity matching, was that the brand name? Was that 4Tower Data?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yep. You'll see it under their services. Yep. You'll see it under their service. There's others, and I'm not like sponsored, but I don't have like JV deals or anything like that. But yeah, they're who I go to. Yep.
Okay.
It's a very cool technique. Awesome. Yep. You can find out so much stuff.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. And to your point about blue ocean and red ocean, often, we look at a blue ocean, we're like, it's blue or red ocean. Everybody's been in there. Typically in every red ocean, there's still these fragmented blue oceans that people aren't seeing,
Oh yeah.
So we'll back away and we'll be like, boy, it's been completely captured. But in reality, there's these fragments, these hot spots that if you just know how to look for them, you can find them. And specifically around typically target markets, one single target market at a time.
What is the aim? What is this guy aim? Is he looking for closer or appointment setters, or is something different?
Yeah, we've got different clients, different educational stuff that we're also offering, in terms of to different targeted markets. So we'll be looking for different opportunities.
Yeah. And me and Gary might be partnering up. So
yeah,
just wait and see. Just wait and see.
Yep. Good question. Yeah.
So I guess, is there something that you learned later on in your career that you wish you knew starting off? And if there is, what is that?
Oh, go with your gut every single time. Your gut, we've all taught, we all know, like, there's so many like science is coming out with the the connection between, your gut and your brain and your neurological systems and your subconscious and everything else. But it's picking up cues that you would never be able to pick up in, like, obviously. And I'm sure we've all had examples of maybe relationships or maybe just deals that we shouldn't have done that just felt wrong, but like, go with your gut. Like, it's there. It's like, it's serving you on such a foundational level that ignoring it is just going to get you into trouble every single time. Go with your gut. Just like, the better you can listen to what it's actually saying, it's there for a reason. It's been developing, each one of us have our own story, backgrounds, and those stories and backgrounds make us unique, and how we can identify what's conceivably a threat or a bad deal or a great deal or a great opportunity, and all of the things that have happened in our life independently from one another all come down to just some basic observations of what's going on in our subconscious and our neurological feedback, loops. And so for me, the biggest mistakes I've made in business didn't have to be made if I would have just listened to what my body was telling me.
Hey, Gary, I appreciate you coming on and speaking to us today, man.
Yeah.
The question is, sometimes you reach that point where you feel like it's not worth it, or you kind of want to give up.
Yeah.
Have you, or when did you reach that point? What did you do to kind of get that mindset, get yourself out of that mindset, or kind of pick yourself up to say, let me continue because it's going to work out?
Oh, that's a really good question. There's a point where you can do a lot of non-contributions to where you're going in the future, and you're just observing and taking down the wisdom of other people without actually doing anything, adding anything, creating anything, putting your stamp of creativity into the world. And so you're just absorbing information. And so there's a point where you have to understand, am I just absorbing or am I contributing? Am I uniquely contributing? And you want to watch that ratio, because it could get really out of whack. And you could notice, boy, I'm just sitting back and listening to people for, like 4 hours at a time, and I'm only contributing content or information to the world or trying to make another deal a quarter of that time. You want it to try to be a 1-to-1 ratio when you can. You want your mind working, so physical fitness, it's a game changer for your mental health. And that could be just going to the gym for 5 minutes a day. Atomic Habits, I don't know if anybody's read that book, but you can just get into just the routine of getting to the gym, moving, and going home. And so now, instead of, you're going, maybe you can't say like I'm fit, but you can say I'm the type of person who's working on my physical fitness. So I would say going to the gym, hanging out with peers, typically that are the same sex. This is overlooked a lot for guys, like competitive sports, or it could be chess for that matter. Like, you got to get around other guys. Ladies, you got to get around other ladies, assuming it's productive. If it's just going to the bar, drinking, and like feeling tired the next day, like, sure, nothing wrong with that. Have fun, but like, try to get around some groups of people that are the same sex, that you can have some just leisure activities, specifically competitive. It goes a long way. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to get your brain to just move out of the rut of just focusing on yourself and your situation. And those are some things that have historically helped us as a civilization that I think we've gotten away from. Those are some practical things. This one's just so near and dear to me, just because I've been there so many times. It's important to obviously set goals, to visualize, to understand, and by goals, we get way too big with our goals. So like typically you want, like for me, 3 goals for the week, and I break that down to daily. So like one problem is we'll set these goals and we always start in a deficit the next day because our goal list is so massive. Dan Sullivan talks about this, but from Strategic Coach. But so we'll have like a list of like 15 to-dos or 15 goals. We can't get them done. So we start the next day in a deficit. We're looking back at what we didn't get done. And now here we go with another set of 15 goals and the ones we didn't get done. And so we're constantly starting in a psychological deficit every day. So one thing you can do is just minimize your goals. Have 3 goals for the day, right? 3 goals. And when you get those goals done, you get to decide if you want to end your day there or not, but you know it's done. And you can't end it until it's done, but those 3 goals are done. Then you start the next day, not in a deficit. You start the next day with a fresh slate. And so that's a great hack. Also, you know, just understanding
That's
like,
deep. That's deep.
yeah, it's huge. It's huge. Yep. You know, the next one is like, know who you want to be in 3 years. Like get very specific in terms of visualizing like who that is and what you want that to be. And like, the more detailed, like you know, vision boards and stuff, I have one of those, but like I've visualized the door handle of my next home, like what it feels like in my hand, what the lock sounds like when I click it, right? Like, and then what you do is you visualize that, you write all that down, and it could be different areas of your life. It's no more than 3 years. If we go too much further than 3 years, we just, our minds like, oh, you know, not able to quite digest that. So you go no more than 3 years, and then you just cut that in half. So in order for me to be on track of whatever that is, what would that look like in a year and a half? Set those goals. What would that look like for me to be on track with that in 6 months, 3 months? And then you break that down week by week in those no more than 3 goal increments. And then you start to work your way there. So that's another way to begin to move in that direction. There's nothing more difficult than that feeling. And you got to get around other people. You got to break out of that because, you know, your mind, you know, your mind is the biggest challenge in this world. You know, yeah. So being able to not negotiate it with it so much by becoming a little bit more active, interacting with people that you know you can be friends with and competitive with if possible. There's some science in like testosterone levels and things like that. But yeah, those are some of the things. But definitely connect with people. Let them know you're going through that. Do not handle that by yourself. If you're there, if you're like, I cannot make progress, I am absolutely like feeling like crap. Like you gotta connect with other people.
Where I know you talked about visualizing what you want, visualize, you know, yourself in 3 years or so, but it's just like a nice little exercise. Go to like an expensive neighborhood, a rich neighborhood, and literally just drive through it, look at all the nice big houses, and just picture yourself living in that house with your family and how you want to live. Yeah. And I know he talks about, you know, your thoughts. Everything starts with a thought, your vision, and you're going to take action. Then it's going to just turn into a reality.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
that's so good. That's so good. Yeah, absolutely. You have to help your brain be able to make that leap, you know?
Yeah.
And when you're in those spots of low, like it seems so far away and it seems so awkward. Like you're like, this is actually going to hurt me because it's so far away from me at this point that I don't want to do it. But you do, you know, it's at those times where you need to snap out of it and you need to just figure out how can I reconnect with where I'm going here? Because it gets painfully. I mean, making money and trying to grow. I mean, it's one of the loneliest endeavors we can make because there, you know, I mean, you're so much of the weight's on what you do, you know, and on your effort, and so much of your return is on your own output. And so you have to battle a lot of those battles alone. So try to minimize that alone time, especially nowadays. I mean, after, you know, pre-COVID, I mean, it's, you know, there's so many advantages to working from home. But there's so much potential loss from being able to reconnect with actual humans. Yeah.
Hey, I was just wondering, you mentioned stuff about college marketing and stuff, and I mentioned something to Mike last night, and he told me to go ahead and start working on it. I was wondering if you do consultations with people, if we could reach out to you and just have maybe like a 5 minute
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. If anybody on this call specifically, this is before it, if you put it up on YouTube, it may not be there, but anybody that's on this call, just mention the call. And, in the next couple days, I'd be more than happy to jump on a 10-15 minute call and just give you guys anything I can. So you just go to my website, graftedin.io, graftedin.io. There's a contact me spot, and you can just shoot me a message, let me know you were on the webinar. And, I'd love to, if you have any like specific challenges where there's a market that you want to hit or something like that, I'd be more than happy to jump on a quick call and figure out what we can do.
So like how you said that you really target a market, and that's what I'm after on this is target a specific audience. So I'd like
that's the key. And then like finding the right list brokers and things like that. There's so much information that's available to shortcut your path. Some stuff you still have to do manually, but there's so many tools available from a data perspective that can really get you where you want to go much quicker. Specifically, you have that target market in view.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate it, Gary.
Hey,
I'll be reaching out to you soon.
Gary, do you know a really good leaderboard software that records phone calls and revenue?
I do not. That is not something that I know.
Bro, it's so hard to find.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too, with like any type of like CRM, like none of them completely solve all your problems unless you custom build them. And to custom build them is literally hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it's to try to figure out how to take any tool that exists that has a proven track record in your industry and just make it work the best it can for you, and then just adapt accordingly. It doesn't matter what industry it is. This is a problem that goes across every industry. Everybody has a problem with any type of CRM software, SaaS product for their industry that doesn't do exactly what they need it to do. And you just have to kind of make something work unless you build it yourself. And I've had clients that got so frustrated they did build it themselves, but that comes with its own issues, But another thing you can do is find out something that's close enough, or pool together some resources and see if you can't get people to actually help you build something,
Okay.
You could be identifying a missed market there,
Could be, yeah. Huh.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for all the information. You mentioned something about the gut feeling, and I'm curious, what do you define that gut feeling as being?
For me, it's literally been my gut, like something in my stomach, I guess. And it's typically not logical. It's typically not in my head because my head's already thinking, I'm looking at things. It's typically something that's just deeper and more just basic, raw, gut feeling. Like for me, it's always been my actual, like, if I could pinpoint it, it's been like this feeling in my stomach that this wasn't the right deal to do. How would you define it? Do you got a better definition?
I was curious as
This is the truth about it.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the best I got. It's literally been for me a gut.
Thank you very much.
And I'm always making sure it's not something I ate, you want to be careful there.
Oh.
But yeah. And I know that there are people that are watching this have had that experience where they just knew intuitively it was the wrong decision.
Like a flutter in your stomach.
Yep, exactly. There you go.
I mean, there is a fun fact out there. There is a fun fact out there stating that human gut is actually the second brain of the human body.
Yeah.
For the people who didn't know that, the digestive system has like 100 million neurons of network in the nerve cells. So basically, it is the second brain of the human body. There is a scientific fact and truth to that.
Yeah. It's not just like metaphysical. It's like, it's really tied to your basic brain functions.
Yeah, I heard it was tied to morphic resonance, where like animals of different same species will adapt similar behaviors even across the world from each other. And it's like,
Mm.
because we all operate on like electromagnetic frequency. So just
Mm.
like radio waves transferring, it's like there's a sub level of communication that we're not able to visibly see. But
Yeah, for me, sorry, this is Toby, I just joined. I feel it's more like a feeling. I feel some kind of dread, a
Mm.
dreadful knowing that where I'm going, there's no way there. I shouldn't even be going there. So it just comes over me kind of like a warning. You know, like that.
Yep. And I don't know why we we're just inclined, there's just an inclination to just go with what's all the time. And that's not always the best.
Well, when it's not really good at all, it's like the hair on the back of my neck kind of rise up a little bit.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I know
Yep.
that is really
Mhm.
wrong.
Yep. So the quicker we can identify whatever that is and actually listen and apply it, the less pain there is involved for everyone,
It becomes a practice, Gary. It becomes a practice.
Yes, it does.
yeah, straight up.
Yeah.
If you don't practice it, you will see in a few days. It'll come to you, and you'll probably ignore it if you aren't practicing it. And in that
Absolutely.
same time frame, it'll show you.
Yep. Yep. That's good.
Yeah, I like to think it's like, it feels like it's like a push and pull type thing, to where it's like, I feel like I'm walking down like, a road or whatever, and then there's like certain potholes on the side and they're invisible, right? But if I step towards them too much, I feel that like that gravity that it contains. It's either like giving off a lot of energy, or it's like taking a lot of energy.
That's
And
right.
so finding the ones that are balanced and like giving off more energy, it's that better opportunity. Whereas potholes or energy vortexes, I always think of everything on energy. So
Yeah.
electrical engineering background. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
always think
That'll
about
do it.
energy.
Yeah. That'll help. Yeah.
So Gary, question for you is, everyone that gets in to this, right, or and is shooting for that success, has that thing that motivates them, their why, that they really go after. Like for me, it's building a legacy for my future kids and future wife. So I mean, what is your why, or what motivates you to get you up in the morning and do what you do?
My why actually came to me, and this is not, it's not your typical why. It came to me one day when my van, my wife just had a child, and our van was getting repossessed or about to get repossessed. And I realized, I went outside, I was going to call my biological father, who I didn't grow up with, didn't know him growing up. We rekindled after he had some grandchildren. So we have a good relationship now, but we had just started to rekindle that relationship. And I walked outside. I still remember the night, walked outside of that rental home that we were living in. And it was a summer night, and I was going to call him and ask him for money. And I picked up the phone, I called him, he answered, and I just thought, there's no way I'm going to do this. And I hung up the phone, and I sat there, and I realized there's nobody coming. Like, nobody is coming to help. My wife can't work. I have nobody else. There's no option. Nobody's coming. And ever since that day, I just realized nobody's coming. That's it. Like, if I don't do it, it's not happening. So my why is that nobody's coming. So even if you think that you have that family member you can lean on, they will not be here one day. And even if they leave you some money, that money will be gone one day. Like, you have got to do it. Nobody's coming.
That's
like my
real
father
stuff,
taught us.
Gary. That is real.
Yep.
Like my father taught us, don't ever wait for somebody else to do for you what you can do for yourself.
Right.
And when you reach the pit, the bottom of the pit, and you know there's no way up except for you to get up and do it yourself, you find strength that you thought you never had.
Correct.
Yep. That's right. And
it's going to be, sorry.
Yeah, no, like, it's this realization that's, in one sense, it was one of the most saddest moments of my life. But on the other side, it was the most freeing moments in my life where I was able to really bloom. Because at some point you're letting go of whatever like superficial thought you had that there was a backup plan. It's gone. And so it's like this maturity moment that happened specifically for me at that time, where I look back and I'm like, that's it. Whatever I thought was there isn't there. It's over. Like, and so it was sad, but it was only sad for a minute. And then I was like, okay, as much weight as this is, there's nobody here. I'm outside, there's literally, there's nowhere else to go, So then on the other side of that, you're like, oh shoot, I can do this.
Awesome. Yeah, it's all about out creating the situation.
Yep. And reframing it. Yeah, reframing. Yeah.
Okay, so it goes back to stuff you said earlier, and that is when we are getting towards the end of our presentation and we go into like the test close, would it behoove us, or has anybody done it? I've not heard anybody, and I'm asking both of you, host and Gary, to say, ask them, have they looked at other programs? Have they looked at other offers or services other than ours? And depending on their answer, obviously, but then to me, it makes the most sense to tell them why we're better, why our service or what it is we're offering them is better, because there obviously is a difference, and there would be as many companies as there are out there doing what.
Right. So, Christy, I can answer that for you. So that question should be done in the fact finding. And what you want to do is, if you do find out that they have been using another program and clearly it didn't work, that's why you're talking to that person. So you want to ask, why do you think the other program didn't work? Identify the problem, and then based off of that problem, that's where you go with your speech.
And that's what our answer is.
That's because you want to find their problem and then be able to provide them with a solution.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you.
I guess, Gary, do you have anything to add to that?
No, that was good. I second that.
Yeah. That's why we got to partner up.
That's right.
Right. Cool. Thank you.
And what do you think that your mission, purpose, and values are in your life? Like, why are you, like, have you ever thought, like, why am I here?
Yeah. Like, obviously, like, in terms of like the larger picture of why I'm here, there's several different answers to that. I mean, there's the obvious ones of, to provide for my family and friends, or, at least my family. And, there's, my faith is important, and, really to minimize human suffering, in any way I can, to figure out how can I help others in similar situations. That fuels me as well. Business owners specifically that are struggling, growing their business, like I have those connections as well. So I don't know if I can answer all three of those. So yeah, it just depends, I think, in different stages of life too, that changes, as I have kids that are now getting, older, that's changed as well. So in terms of like, okay, now I'm looking, we have, half of our house is now empty, we're down to 4 kids, and every couple of years another one moves out, so it's like, there's a shift in terms of our focus and long-term goals and strategies and philosophies around what's next and around the corner. And so, yeah, that changes for me, it molds into what's most important to me, but a lot of it's built off that foundational why, like I've got to keep moving, and reconnecting and with myself, understanding who I am as an individual, and what makes me unique, and what are some of those intuitive desires that I have, and not necessarily having to wait. I'll give you an example. One of my goals was, I wanted to go on a date every 2 weeks with my wife. And there was a period of time where I realized that led into a fight often, because there was too much going on. She didn't want to go. And I'm like, but it's date night. I put it on the calendar, like we have got to go. And then I realized like, well, if what I really want is just to go out, like, and go watch a movie, I'll just go out and watch a movie. And so I stopped with the pressure, which allowed our when we did have date nights to be a lot less pressure and a lot less less anxiety. And I could go watch a movie and come home. And so just understand like unnecessary frustration in my life by knowing who I am and what I really want. And those kind of things helped.
Yes, nice,
It's a good question. It's a deep question.
Yeah, searching your higher self. That's great. That's great.
Yeah.